was the temperature as a factor. I did show you the greenhouses. Now you know what is a greenhouse is, and I showed you the vertical farming structures or containers. Yeah, but those vertical farming structure, that's how the future will be, the future of farming, basically, because some of the countries don't have those things, or they don't have those infrastructure or the equipment to make those vertical farming a reality, right? So we use greenhouses or tunnels for optimal enzyme activity, as I've said, because we need to ensure that enzymes have an optimum or optimal temperature range. Okay, we agree on that part. Sharp. Nutrients. Apply fertilizers for optimum plant nutrition. So sometimes the nutrient concentration in the soil can be low or can be less or can be insufficient. So we need to supplement with fertilizer so that our plant can get all of the nutrients and nutrition that it needs to be able to grow well, right? So nutrients ensure that plants have optimum nutrients. Light increases intensity. Use red or blue light. Remember on that vertical farming structure that I showed you first, they were using red or blue light, right? So red and blue light is the light that is considered to work effectively with plants or crops. So red and blue light is best suitable for photosynthesis, right? For use when you're growing plants or crops, right? So to increase intensity, use red or blue light. What is this? Prune or trellis? Yeah, I don't know what is that. Increase light intensity under which crops grow. Manipulate light color in growing environment. Chlorophyll absorbs red and blue light and reflects green, orange, and yellow light. Ooh, we got the answer why we use red or blue light, right? It's because the chlorophyll absorbs mainly red and blue light. Then it reflects what? It reflects green, reflects orange, it reflects yellow light, but it absorbs what? Red and blue. That's why um on vertical farming on those containers they use red and blue light. They use what? Chlorophyll light. They hit directly to the spot. They don't want to make the chlorophyll to choose in a light to say, hey, I don't want purple, I don't want brown, I don't want brown. So they give chlorophyll exactly what it wants, red or blue. Then what else? Increase exposure time to light, right? Yeah. Then carbon dioxide concentration, CO2 concentration, add KHCO3 or NaHCO3 to increase carbon dioxide. So you need to increase carbon dioxide availability by adding KHCO3 or NaHCO to the water, right? And NaHCO3 to the water. Yeah. Oh, we are left with one factor, water. You need to provide sufficient irrigation, right? Irrigation, that's when we water our plant. It is called irrigation. So you need to provide sufficient irrigation. Insufficient water If there is insufficient water, what will happen? The plant stomata will shut, deprive plant of carbon dioxide, because if there is no water, then why will the stomata open? Because the stomata opens to so that water can be lost, right? So that will really make the plant to struggle, because the plant needs water so that it can survive and also do the transpiration and all those things. So that's why when there is insufficient water, the plant stomata will shut. Examples include greenhouses and tunnels for temperature control. So if they say, okay, what can we use to control temperature? Then you say greenhouses. If you say something else, I will catch you. I will catch you. I will look for you, because I know some of the teachers and they don't mean to. And I can say, hey, give me those students that make mistakes and they write something else, and they write something that I didn't teach them, right? Because I know this is a medium for learning, and it is accessible by all learners, and we want all of the learners to be able to excel in science. That's why this channel exists. Okay, let's move on. Manipulation techniques summary. 1. Greenhouse or tunnel farming is used to control the conditions, right? Greenhouse tunnel farming is used for controlled conditions, right? So that we can control the conditions, or we can control the environment. That's why we use the greenhouse or the tunnel. 2. Seasonal planting. Summer crops in summer. So if you know, okay, you're going to plant summer crops, then you need to plant in summer, right? 3. Tree trellising to increase light exposure. Okay, what is trellising? That is the question. Okay, so basically trellising, that's when we want to increase the light exposure. So for example, with the tomatoes, if you look at how they grow tomatoes, if you go to the farms or maybe in the gardens, if they grow tomatoes, someone who has experience, you will see where they use sticks, right? The sticks that support the tomato to grow upward, because if the tomato just grows going horizontally, you'll find the plant all over the floor, right? And we don't want that. We want the plant to grow upward, straight, right? Going up, so that the light exposure can be maximized. So we want to increase light exposure, and we want also the plant to grow well, okay, to grow facing upward, so that the plant growth can increase, right? So for pruning to improve light penetration, right? Then 5, optimal plant density for maximum light interception, right? Quick revision, key concepts for exams. Photosynthesis versus respiration summary. So now we are doing a summary of what we were doing. Okay, so we have aspect, we have the type, energy, product, location, light, organisms. Sorry. So photosynthesis, the type is the anabolic, right? Because it builds it builds. That's why we call it anabolic. Then the energy, it stores energy, right? That's photosynthesis. It stores energy. Then the product of photosynthesis is carbohydrates and oxygen. See, it's carbohydrates and oxygen, which is O2, right? Location, chloroplast. Light, it is light dependent. Organisms, it only occurs in plants only. If you say animals and plants, I will find you. I will find you. Organisms, photosynthesis occurs only in plants, right? In plants only, right? Take note of that. Respiration, the type is catabolic because it breaks down, right? It breaks down. Energy, it releases the energy. The products are carbon dioxide, water, and energy. CO2, H2O, and energy. Location, mitochondria. Light, it is light independent. And organisms, all living organisms, including plants, basically, right? So basically, you can say plants and animals. Yeah, I think that will also be the answer. So all living organisms. 15 photosynthesis. Remember, this is a recap because we did this previously, right? So light intensity, right? 2 temperature, 3 that's carbon dioxide concentration, 4 that's water availability. That's the 4 factors affecting photosynthesis. Methods to optimize photosynthesis performance: use greenhouses or tunnels. You adjust planting density, right? Trellis plants, right? Trellis plants, that's the one that I was saying already. Okay, use structures that can support the plant so that the plant can grow vertically, right? Going up, so that it can be maximum exposure to light, and yeah, so that also growth can be maximized because it will grow going vertically, so going upward. Prune plants, irrigate regularly, right? Apply fertilizers, plant seasonally, right? Seasonally because we have seasons of summer, autumn, winter, spring, right? Apply fertilizers. We will talk about fertilizers in the upcoming sections, right? You will see, and also with the pruning of the plants, we will also address that one when we get there, right? Right. Practice questions based on past questions. Name the process shown in the diagram of photosynthesis. Okay, so if they give you a diagram and you can see, oh, this is a diagram showing photosynthesis, then the answer is photosynthesis. So basically, they will just show you a picture because now I don't have a picture, but you will see when we do the questions, you will see a diagram. I will show you the diagram. Okay, basically, that's not my diagram. That's a diagram that that was drafted by the examiner. So I'm not the examiner. So yeah, but you'll see the diagram. If you see a question having a diagram, but you should look at the diagram and think critically. Hey, what is this diagram? So if you see this diagram is about photosynthesis, so that is the process of photosynthesis. If they name the process shown in the diagram. Okay. 2. Why are plants described as autotrophic? Then if it was me, I would see the big English word, autotrophic, and I would say, oh, what is autotrophic? No, here, the examiner got me, and the examiner didn't get you because we went through this. So, autotrophic basically means that plants can make their own food, right? That's autotrophy. Means that the plants can make their own food. How do they make their own food? Through the process of photosynthesis, right? Yeah. Then they can say tabulate two differences between photosynthesis and cellular respiration because they want to see if you understand the difference between photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Then you will tell them, man, examine and look. Photosynthesis, that's the anabolic process, right? Then respiration is the catabolic process, right? Then you tell the examiner, no, man, photosynthesis consumes CO2, it consumes carbon dioxide, and it releases what? Oxygen, right? Then also tell the examiner that respiration. I wonder, there I was talking about photosynthesis, saying what it consumes what? Carbon dioxide, CO2, and releases oxygen. That was photosynthesis. Then I go to my right hand side. I say respiration. Then I say respiration consumes oxygen, O2, and releases carbon dioxide, CO2, right? So basically, you need to make a tabular format so that you can get your 1 mark. So on the left hand side, you say photosynthesis, anabolic process, consumes carbon dioxide, releases O2. On the right hand side, we say respiration, catabolic process, consumes O2, releases carbon dioxide. Then if you do like that, if I'm the examiner and I see your this learner can understand their things, right? Because they made a table and they show me, okay, photosynthesis is this, photosynthesis is has this and has this, respiration is this and has this and has this, right? So I'm giving you full mark on this section, full marks. If it is out of 3, I give you, then I'll give you 3 out of 3. It is it is difficult to just say it's not true because it is true. Why are you saying it's not true? Because I can see everything is organized in a table format, right? 4. The leaf pigment responsible for the orange color in plants is or are. So the leaf pigment responsible for the orange color is carotenoid. Responsible for the what? Orange color. Carotenoid. 5. The splitting of water molecule is this one. I saw it like multiple times. Maybe they think or this term is too difficult for the learners. I don't know because they repeat this term again and again and again and again and again. So the splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen atoms in the presence of light is called photolysis, right? Name 2 organs where photosynthesis products are stored. Okay, 2 organs where photosynthesis products are stored: leaves, stems, roots, right? Seeds. But here they said 2, you can say stems, leaves. So principle here is that osmosis always moves water from higher to lower water concentration across a semi-permeable membrane, right? In plants and into atmosphere, from roots to stems and leaves. 2 main mechanisms: osmotic flow and root pressure. Osmotic flow and root pressure, right? So osmotic flow and root pressure, water enters the roots by osmosis. Flow of water is called osmotic flow, is driven by a concentration gradient. Sorry, Water diffuses from root hairs to the xylem of the root, where sap is more concentrated than soil water. This pushes existing water up the plant. This is called root pressure. Water the water moves up through the xylem of the root and stem, but root pressure is not strong enough to move water very high up, so use transpiration pool, right? So osmotic flow and root pressure is when water moves into roots by osmosis, driven by the concentration gradient, right? Root pressure pushes water upward, but it is limited in height. B. Transpiration pool, driven by transpiration rate, facilitated by cohesion of hydrogen-bounded water molecules. Water is lost through the stomata of leaves by transpiration, pulls up entire column of water into the petiole, which is the leaf stalk, and plant leaves, uses capillary action or capillarity, right? So transpiration pool, check, it is driven by water loss, which is transpiration that happens through the stomata. Cohesion, water molecules stick together, and adhesion, stick to xylem. It aids water column movement, right? Capillary action, it helps with the capillary action. It helps water rise or helps water to move up through narrow xylem tubes, right? Then what are the forces involved? So forces involved here, we have root pressure, we have transpiration pool, we have capillary action, we have cohesion, we have adhesion. So a vein tip, stomata, the stomata or a stomata, huh? Stomata are the plant parts modified for water diffusion into the atmosphere, right? Are the plant parts modified for water diffusion into the atmosphere so that the water can be lost, right? The water can exit the plant, right? So 4.2, movement of water from leaf to air. So here that's the exit of water. That's when the water leaves the plant, and yeah, that's when the water leaves the plant. Movement of water from leaf to air, transpiration, with transpiration, and with agitation. Transpiration is the evaporation of water from surface of plant leaves. The sun warms water inside leaves and it changes to water vapor. Vapor diffuses through the stomata controlled by gut cells. This allows mass flow of plant nutrition and water from roots to shoots. So basically transpiration is when we have the evaporation of water, right? That's evaporation of water vapor from the leaf surfaces, right? And this evaporation of water from the leaf surfaces is controlled by what? Is controlled by the stomata, right? Evaporation of water vapor from the leaf surfaces, and this um, evaporation of water from the leaf surfaces is controlled by the stomata. Vegetation, that is the loss of water, right, in liquid form, right? So that one goes through water vapor, but vegetation is in liquid form, right? So loss of water in liquid form from an injured leaf or stem. An injured leaf or stem, which means the leaf is in a normal condition, it's not injured, or yeah. So it occurs when pressure builds up in the leaves at night due to lack of transpiration, because at night there is no sun, right? There's no sunlight that can warm up water inside the leaves, right? And that water inside the leaves cannot change into water vapor, right? And also it cannot diffuse, right? As a water vapor, right? So if we're in that condition, then that means the water has to be lost in a liquid form, right? So there's the loss of water in liquid form from the leaves or stems at night when transpiration is low. Loss of water in liquid form from leaves or stems at night when transpiration is low. Ventive transpiration, that's when we're dealing with the water vapor loss. And agitation, that's when we're dealing with liquid water loss, right? We have to note the differences. Adaptations to reduce transpiration. 5.1 Stomata. Stomata has gut cells, right? The gut cells do what? So the stomata, by the way, is the main adaptation, right? The stomata is the tiny passages that allow exchanges of gases between plant and the atmosphere. It's surrounded by gut cells that control the stomata should open or should close. The function of gut cells depend on their water pressure, Traeger pressure. If full of water, stomata will open because it needs to allow for diffusion of carbon dioxide. But if they lose water, then the stomata will close. The stomata maintain a fine balance to ensure efficient photosynthesis but prevent dehydration. For example, usually open during daylight, during the day when people are outside during the day, right? Then respond to temperature and wind, right? Right. The stomata has gut cells. Has gut cells that control the stomata opening and or the stomata closing. The stomata opening and the stomata closing is controlled by the gut cells, right? So gut cells control the stomata opening or stomata closing by changing the Traeger pressure, right? Open when full of water, that's mainly during daylight, and close when water is lost. Balance is needed for photosynthesis. This is water conservation. Then we have special plant adaptations, and this is 05. That is the special plant adaptation 05. And the example of 05 is the succulent plant, right? So during the day, stomata close to retain water. At night, the stomata open when water loss by transpiration is lower and carbon dioxide enters and is stored for use during daylight. Okay. Leaves rolled inwards to conceal stomata. So basically, these 05s, they close stomata during the day and they open at night to reduce water loss. They store carbon dioxide at night for daytime photosynthesis so that they can use that carbon dioxide during the daytime, for the process of photosynthesis, and it leaves rolled inward to protect stomata, right? 5.3 Leaf adaptations, fewer or sunken stomata. Okay, so it has fewer or leaf stomata, fewer or sunken stomata. Tiny or needle-shaped leaves will help to reduce the surface area. Okay, so if the leaves are tiny or they are needle-shaped, that will help to reduce the surface area. Okay, so if also the leaves are fewer, right, or they have sunken stomata, so A, that means the leaf will be better adapted to handle that, to to handle transpiration rate. Thickness and size differ depending on whether in shade or sunlight, right? The size of the leaves. Shiny or wavy surfaces covered in fine hairs, thick cuticles. You can find those leaves that have hair, yeah, so that has hair textiles, yeah, that has hairs. So those hairs, I think, they also help to reduce transpiration, yeah, or waxy surfaces and has thick cuticles covered in fine hairs and and thick cuticles. So the adaptation, let's look at this adaptation very in a detailed manner basically. Adaptation of sunken or fewer stomata. So if we have fewer stomata, what is the benefit for that? It reduces water loss. If we have tiny or needle-shaped leaves, the mic, so I have to check frequently so that my mic doesn't go off, because last time it went off, then I was speaking only to find out that yo, my mic is off, and now there is no sound. So I had to start again and do the whole presentation. So yeah. Okay, we're looking at the adaptation. See, we did sunken or fewer stomata, tiny or needle-shaped leaves. Tiny or needle-shaped leaves, they decrease the surface area, right? Because the leaf is tiny, right? So if the leaf is tiny, that means even the water loss will not be that much compared to a leaf that is big and broad, and yeah, so that's the benefit, right? Decrease the surface area, um, that means there will be less water loss. Waxy or shiny surfaces reflects heat because those surfaces are shiny, right? So um, when the sunlight tries um, to shine directly at that leaf, right? That leaf reflects the light, right? Then reflects the heat. Then this reduces transpiration. So they are better adapted. So that is the benefit. It reflects the light and reduces transpiration. Um, hairy leaves. Hairy leaves is those plants. If you look at some of the plants, let me check my mic. Oh, it's still green. Okay. So hairy leaves, some of the plants that have those hair-like structures, those tiny hair structures. So they create a boundary layer that reduces the airflow, right? And some plants Leaves have thick cuticle, and that thick cuticle limits water loss. And some plants have the leaves that have stomata underside, right? So basically, if that's the leaf and the stomata is underside, meaning under the leaf, basically. So that means the stomata is protected from the direct sunlight, right? So that can be the benefit, right, for that plant. Then the movement of photo photosyn hmm? the movement of photosynthesis, sorry, the movement of photosynthesis products, right? We did photosynthesis process, and we saw the products of photosynthesis, right? So photosynthesis products are called photosynthates, right? For example, these are the sugars, amino acids, fatty acids. Photosynthesis moved from where they are, photosynthetes, they moved from where they are, which is from the source, to where they are needed, the sink, right? That's where they are needed, via the fluid. The pressure gradient between the source and the sink drives the sap along the phloem tubes. The source is the cells that load photosynthetes into the phloem. Water moves in from xylem ducts by osmosis. The sap pushes along the phloem and this is called translocation. Sink, the first the photosynthetes transported outside the phloem. The sugars consumed. The sugars are consumed, right? Or they can they can be converted into starch. So basically, when we think of these photosynthetes, is that we have these sugars, amino acids, fatty acids that are produced in photosynthesis, right, during the process of photosynthesis, okay, or at the end of photosynthesis. The source, that's the leaves, that's where products are made. The sink, that's the parts of the plant where those products are needed. These are the roots, fruits, seeds, storage organs, right? Translocation, basically that's the movement of photosynthetes through phloem from the source, from where they are made, to the sink, to where they are needed. The process of translocation, step number one, loading first, loading photosynthetes into phloem. Step 2, water moves in from xylem by osmosis. Step 3, step pushed along phloem. Step 4, products unloaded at sink and used or stored as starch, right?